Hi, it's Kyle Koeberlein, Sales Director for Bluegrass Truck, Bus, and RV. Today I have a 2025 Renegade Verona 40VTS behind me. The paint exterior is in Surge. The 40VTS is a brand new floor plan for 2025. It's the only Verona that offers that opposing slides in the front for more square footage in the living room. And I'll show you all that stuff opened up, but first we'll do an exterior walk around. So this is the front end of that Verona. Always got the hood open here, and the first thing I'll start off with is this unit is equipped with collision mitigation system. That is your radar on the front bumper. The thing I like to note is just keep in mind that if you're traveling in wintry conditions that potentially could build up ice or snow on that, it will disable that system if it builds up on it. The unit is still drivable. You'll get a message in your instrument cluster that it's been disabled, and then next time you stop for fuel, you just got to knock that stuff off. It's only happened to me a handful of times in all the times I've been moving RVs. And of course, typically most of you guys are not traveling. You're usually chasing 70 degrees unless you're a ski bum. Of course, you got LED headlights from Freightliner. These are your Voyager cameras that are fender mounted for left and right turn. There's one on the other side of the fender as well. The commercial trucking industry, I mean, it's been a decade or more now, started going to translucent reservoirs, so it makes it really easy to see the level of stuff like your windshield wiper fluid, your coolant, other side power steering. Of course, this is your air filter, the minder that shows you if there's any restrictions that needs to be replaced. This is the Cummins L9. It is 360 horsepower, 1,150 foot-pounds of torque. Plenty of power for pulling. This unit can tow 20,000 pounds, so no problem if all you're doing is flat towing a car, and really even bigger trailers. Obviously you can go up in more horsepower and stuff if you just want to be that guy who drives 70 miles an hour up every mountain, but this is a very capable rig and a great price point for what you get. I'll walk around to the other side. So you can see those translucent reservoirs, and then here's your fuel water separator for your fuel. What I do with my motorhome, and what I highly recommend, is I service my unit every year, because typically I'm not getting to the mileage point, but I still want to do that annual service, and I always do my fuel filter, of course oil change. Air filter, you really can do, you can do a visual check on that. I mean, that really comes down to the conditions you've been driving in. Have you been out west on a lot of dusty gravel roads, or if you've just been hiking up and down the I-75 corridor, I mean, you're not going to have near the dust, that with potential in other scenarios. So that's more a visual check. One thing I also like to point out, before I forget, you can see there's a light up here that you can turn on from inside the cab so that you can light this up at night to check anything. Of course, one of the huge advantages to a Super C is the fact that the engine compartment sits out away from the vehicle, unlike underneath of a Class A bus. That way it's easier to maintenance, take care of, service, diagnose issues. Another thing too is, a lot of people like to keep their engines and stuff nice, clean, and shiny. I just don't recommend doing pressure washing. You can, but just use your common sense. I mean, you got a lot of very expensive electronics located in the engine compartment that you don't want to, shoot pressurized water at. So, if you really want this to be a shiny showpiece, and some people do on their motorhomes, I mean, a spray bottle and a hand rag is really the best way to do it. I mean, you can take that risk with a pressure washer, but I kind of heed on the on the cautionary side. Of course, you've got diamond shield on the front of these units, which is great for keeping the nicks and stuff off the paint, long term. Just be aware that if a unit's going to sit outside for a decade in the sun, this diamond shield can yellow, so you just want to make sure that you're conditioning, keeping it clean and protected so it'll last for many, many years. On the front of the vehicle, you have, keep in mind that this is an RV, yes, but it's also really a commercial truck. This is a Freightliner M2 chassis. It's the same chassis we would use to build fire trucks, box trucks, utility trucks for power company. So these are commercial truck tires. It's a commercial truck. So anytime you have service issues as far as breakdown, need a tire replaced, think truck. So when you're calling tow companies, oh, I got an RV, I'm on the side of the road. They're going to show up and go, I can't tow this. Oh, I can't jack that up high enough to change a tire. So, keep in mind that when you talk to them, explain to them, yes, I'm in an RV, but I'm on a commercial truck chassis. I require a commercial truck tire. So just keep that in mind. As we go down the side of the vehicle, on a Freightliner M2 chassis, you have straddled fuel tanks. So you've got a 50-gallon tank on both sides. You do want to fill both those tanks whenever you do fill your fuel. It's not a big deal. Some people get a little nervous about the whole dual fuel tank thing. You know, you got 100 gallons of fuel. Cruise through a truck island. They got pumps on both sides. It's easy peasy. You know, the tanks are they have an Equifo system. It's got an equalizer system for the fuel tank. And basically what it does is it pulls too much fuel from the fuel tanks, which is going to pull more fuel from the tank that's a little fuller, and then it distributes that fuel back to the tanks equally. So it's not designed to really transfer a large amount of fuel from one side to the other, but it does keep them balanced, really more for weight distribution. So that's why you want to make sure you're filling both tanks when you do fill. You gotta keep in mind too, like just plan your route. Like if you have 100 gallons of diesel fuel and you know you're gonna be getting away from a major highway, like go in off that highway with a full tank of fuel so that your next stop can be at a diesel truck place where you have an island where you can pull through and have, you know, the capability of filling on both sides. That's what I do with my motorhome. I mean, it's rare that I'm not stopping at like a truck plaza, you know, versus like just a gas station that has a diesel pump. You do have, when you open up the cab doors, you do have little pin lights that shine down, which is really nice to illuminate the step area at night. Well, of course, we'll talk about the inside a little bit later. Going down the camp side of the coach, they're going to keep most of that open to storage. They are carpeted line. Another nice thing they do is there's no wall now between one bay and the next, so you can put your longer items in there, longer tents. Those down there are your slide locks, which we talk about when you take delivery. You know, Renegade's boxes are steel, which is unlike really their closest competitor. Not going to name the brand. And they also have dual latch points that are adjustable. So as these gaskets compress over time, you know, you can tighten that stuff back up to keep those bays dry. You also have access to an outlet there in there as well. And then you can run it out a port down here if you're trying to run electricity out of here to run something. Just another bay. Of course, they a couple years ago, I think 2022 or 3, they started doing the cut under the rail and make them deeper, right? So those bigger things, bigger chairs that would fit in those boxes. I mean, you have tons of exterior storage. Of course, you have your exterior TV. It's got a sound bar on it, which is really nice. You know, I like the sound bar concept versus like the radio and the speakers because, you know, if the sound bar craps out, you can just get the latest and greatest new sound bar and, you know, screw it up there and plug and play. So easy replacement, you know, in years to come. Of course, frameless windows. Of course, that's a slide right there in front of us, and then it's got all the slides have awning covers on them, which you're not going to see anything on the high level quality of Renegade that doesn't have, you know, a awning cover on their slide. Of course, you can see the awning that comes out. You know, on all your nicer motorhomes, the awnings are always going to be armless because it looks it's not very appeasing to see these big arms coming down the side of the coach. And so all your high-end motorhomes have armless awnings. Keep in mind, they're fair weather awnings. You know, if you're parked on a lakefront and there's potential of gusts of wind, you gotta be really careful. A lot of times I won't even put my awning out in those situations just because, even if it's an armed awning, like that's a risky, on a lakefront, that's a risky situation because it just takes that big gust of wind to rip an awning back. I've seen it happen personally, not to me, other people. And in the fact that it's fair weather. I forgot where I was going with that. If I think about it, I'll let you know. But they are fair weather awnings, so just be cautionary when you're using them. Oh, I was going to say, they do have sensors for wind. So if they get bumped hard enough, they'll automatically retract. But the thing is, a gust of wind is it's going to rip it off top of it's going to bend it over top of the RV. It's too late. Like the sensors, I mean, the sensor could save you potentially, but it's not guaranteed. Another storage bay behind your rear tire. Of course, that one's cut under as well, really deep for those longer, deeper items. Another storage bay at the rear of the coach. You got a full-length mud flap, 20,000-pound hitch. The one thing Renegade does is it's a two-piece fiberglass rear cap. Of course, you see your backup camera up there. The nice thing about that two-piece rear cap, which a lot of your like Class A buses don't have a two-piece, it's a single piece, is that, you know, if you bust this part of the fiberglass or, you know, bust the bottom of this bumper, which is more than likely what you're going to hit if you back into something or if somebody hits you, that bottom piece can be replaced independent of the rest of the cap, making the repair a lot cheaper and just easier overall. That little pipe down there is the exhaust for your generator. They exit that to the rear, so it's not coming up around your slides. Of course, this is your stop, tail, turn plug for your trailer, and this is your camera plug for your Voyager system if you're adding a camera to the actual trailer itself so you can see behind it. I've also heard of people putting like cameras inside a trailer, especially those that may be carting a horse or, you know, an expensive car or something of that nature. The rear bay on the coach is your power bay. It's 50 amp Shore. You do have a transfer switch that's automatic, and it does have surge guards, so it does protect the coach. Excuse me. So on the 50 amp Shore cord, keep in mind it's a 50 amp plug. Everybody calls it a 50 amp plug, but it actually gives you 100 amps of service because you have two legs of 50 amp. And so that's giving you 12,000 available watts to use. It is on a power track reel. It works really well. The reel's very strong. If anything, the only thing I ever have to do when I'm reeling one is when I'm holding the button down to reel it in. Sometimes I've got to bump the cord one side way or the other just so it doesn't wind up on one side too much. So you have 12,000 available watts, and so you got to think, you've got two legs of 50 amp, each leg feeding kind of different aspects of the coach, right? So like one leg feeds, you know, an air conditioner and some other components, the other leg feeds an air conditioner and some other components, and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you dog bone the plug down, so say you go to a friend's house or you go somewhere they only have a 30 amp in like a situation where, you know, it's just what you have. Like if you want, I know if you go up to like the Acadia, KOA, you know, on the water there, like a lot of those front ocean sites on the ocean there, I think some of those have 30 amps. So this would be a case where you would dog bone it down, you'd be able to run one air conditioner, but keep in mind that you're only feeding half the coach. Now, whenever you use a dog bone, they do set it up so it typically feeds like critical items. So the charging circuits for the batteries, your refrigerator, lights, TVs, internet, you know, the stuff that you really are going to use a lot. You know, what you're going to lose are potential, some of your outlets, you know, your air conditioner, your dryer, you know, some items that you may or may not necessarily have to have. But you'll have all your key stuff that you know that you're going to want to have when you're out traveling in your RV. Now, we talked about you got 12,000 watts available when you're hooked up to shore. When you're running on an Awning generator, it's an 8,000 watt quiet diesel generator. Don't worry though. So 8,000 watts is more than enough to power this entire coach and run everything on it. Where you may run into some restrictions is when you start adding stuff on that's not part of the coach. Hair dryers, coffee pots. You just got to be a little more mindful that, you know, if you go to plug in a coffee pot, don't be hair drying in the bathroom at the same time. You could trip the generator, which not the end of the world. You just know you got to come out here and flip the breaker on the generator itself. There is an hour meter on the generator. You can start the generator from out here. Of course, you can do all that stuff from inside as well. The first service needs to be done at 50 hours, and then the other services beyond that are done at every 150. They also moved the sewer container for the standard hose from Renegade back here in this bay, just to get it away from the water control bay up front, and that works out really well. That up there is the back side of your dryer, so that's the vent that exits to the outside. Here we have our control bay. You know, of course, they switched to the sea level 2 system for your tank levels. It works a lot better. It's a lot more reliable. And if you look, like I can push battery, fresh gray. This has got antifreeze in it, and black. And then you got your dump handles for your black tank, your gray tank. And in person, I can talk, you know, a lot of you guys we sell to have already had RVs, so they understand like the dumping process, but that's stuff I can go through if you need to know. I mean, I do RV myself. You do have a black tank wash. I'm only really a fan of using that like 3 or 4 times a year. You got to keep in mind what is going into your black tank is being ground down through a macerator toilet inside the RV. So as long as you're putting that initial water in the toilet, like the 3 to 4 gallons, and letting that waste go into water, slush around, add your bacterias, which please use liquid forms. Do not put those pods and that kind of stuff through your toilets. And just a few times a year. It's not something you need to do every time you go to dump your black tank. Of course, you got a cable hookup here, in case you're hooked up at an RV park, and they have cable feed there at the post along with your power. And then Renegade keeps it super simple. You have a 2-position water valve, and so when you're hooked up to your water hose, which is on a power retract reel, you either tell it that hose to fill the water tanks, which you've got 2 75-gallon tanks underneath the bed inside for a total of 150 gallons of fresh water, or the way it's set now is it's going straight to feed the fixture, so city water, bypassing the tank altogether. This blue line is just a water hose that can be hooked up to the exterior spigot. There's a way to run the hose out if you need to. It can also be used as a low point drain. This is a low point drain. This is your button to retract your water hose. This is the filter wrench to take the filter off. You can see the filter here. It's got antifreeze in it. We do not put the filters in them until the customers take delivery. Anytime that we put water in coaches, we filter it at the source. A lot of people are very particular about contaminants, and so we do our part to make sure we're filtering the water before it goes into the coach. That is your black tank, and the reason I know that that's so you have a 75-gallon black tank, a 75-gallon gray tank. I know that that's the black tank because your macerator toilets have their own sensors so that they know not to flush if you're in risk of overflowing. So you got a 50% sensor and a 100% sensor. You hit the 50% sensor, it's going to turn the light on the toilet yellow. That's probably about when I would start thinking about dumping my black tank, because you want that waste to build up in the black tank and slosh around and break down, so it makes it a lot easier for dumping it. And then typically what I try to do is if I know I'm going to be dumping my black tank, because you'll learn your routine and your usages as you use the coach and like how often you got to do something. I like to have some gray water in the gray tank, if not close to full, so that when I dump my black tank, I can dump my gray behind it, which is soapy dishwater and shower water, and that does a really good job of cleaning out my hose with all the doo-doo and whatnot. It makes it a nice clean dump. If you've never done it, I know several have, but if you've never dumped like sewer waste on an RV, it's not that bad. Like it's not that big of a deal. My wife was like terrified. She's like, that's not that bad. Of course, you got your 100% sensor up here. If the toilet goes red, it'll stop flushing after about 3 or 4 times. If you absolutely have to, there is a way to bypass that on the toilet. It's a button combination, which is in the owner's manual. I just don't know off the top of my head. One of the things that I recommend as far as add-ons for the coach, which is super simple, we can do it, is you've got these gates back here which are driven by a cable. They do stretch over time and they have to be adjusted. There's a little set screw in there, and so you could get a little bit of leaking. So in theory, what they want you to do is they want you to unscrew this bottom cap, and then when you take this cap off, if there's any poop drizzle in there, a little bit of water residue, it drips on the ground and not inside your bay. Well, what works really well is you add about a 5 to 7 inch clear fitting here, an additional Valterra gate here, with a 2-foot hose coming off of it that can all be curled up into this area of the bay. And that way, when you go to hook up for your sewer, all you do is twirl this out, drop your 2-foot hose down through there, and then you can lift it up higher than that. Of course, with the clear hose, you can see if there's been anything leaking. You can hook up your longer hose that you're hooking up to sewer, and then, of course, you can open up this gate and then go over here and then dump your gray and your black. That just gives you an extra stopping point, and because with time, stuff potentially gets clogged up in the gate like a piece of tissue, or like I said, the gates get out of adjustment, and that just makes it less likely to be in a situation, and you're going to deal with a lot less drizzle that way. All the drizzle's getting caught here versus you opening this up. And of course, you're opening it down here, so you're just not dealing with that poop drizzle dilemma. And that doesn't require, that's a toolless install. You're just adding some pieces to that to make it easier to dump your tanks. Of course, your gray tank back here, you can see that gate that's located right there. The Renegade Verona utilizes the AquaHot 250 system. It's a single zone system. That's your hot water and your heating the coach. It runs off your electric and diesel. If you have, and it will only run off what you say it can run off of. So if you have electric on, that's all it'll run on. If you have electric and diesel on, then it will start with electric as kind of a preheat function and then utilize diesel if the demand requires it. So it's not going to just suck a bunch of diesel if you have it on. The AquaHot system full tilt uses about 4/10 of a gallon of diesel per hour. And like I said, that's full tilt. So it's gonna sip diesel fuel. It's not something you're gonna like notice big time that you're consuming a ton of diesel. Like I said earlier, most people aren't chasing like 15-degree weather, they're chasing 70. So this will do an easy job of keeping the coach temperature maintained. And even if you are in those, you're the ski bum guy, you're gonna consume a little more diesel, but it's still gonna manage and do the job. You also have, of course, available storage in here. The one thing I should mention about AquaHot, it needs to be serviced every year. Don't service it before you put it in storage. Service it before it comes out of storage. Because to keep AquaHot running reliably and smoothly, you need to be utilizing it like every month, letting diesel burn through it. Exercising the system. You don't want to just sit and get gummed up with diesel, because diesel can be a gummy fuel if it sits long enough. If you ever have it worked on, I highly recommend having a certified AquaHot technician working on it, because they are trained. We're AquaHot certified here. They are trained like on exactly all the particulars in the sense of like the adjustments and like how things should align properly. Because on the AquaHot systems, if anything's not aligned exactly right, you'll end up with issues. And you'll have an RV tech to be like, oh, I can get your AquaHot system working. Like he's just gonna guess through it. And yeah, he might get it working. Odds are it's gonna quit working on you again with time. Most common issue we have with the AquaHot systems is when they're brand new, they haven't been run a lot, right? Because it's a brand new coach. Well, when you start actually utilizing the coach a whole bunch, it's possible they'll burp some air, causing the glycol level to drop. There's a float in there, and if the float drops, it won't let the system fire up. And that's just a matter of adding more glycol. A lot of times on new coaches, if I do get the call that says my AquaHot won't fire up, 9 times out of 10, it's just a matter of adding some glycol. You may read some bad buzz on the internet about AquaHot 250. This is like the 3rd generation. They have resolved a lot of those issues in a very reliable unit. And really, with all AquaHot systems, it's the education from the RV salespeople. They're like, you need to exercise it, you need to use it. Don't service it before you put it in storage. Like, service it when you get it out, so everything's fresh and ready to go. Because so you've got a solar charge controller in the rear, and then we have a 3000 pure sine wave inverter, which is hybrid. And what the hybrid means is that if you're plugged up to shore power at like your buddy's house and it's only like a 15 amp, and then you go to kick on like the microwave and like I don't know, some other appliance that's drawing a decent amount of power, which is above the 15 amp, the inverter has the ability to kick in and offset that demand so that it's not blowing the fuse on whatever circuit breaker you're hooked up at somebody's house or whatever situation you might be in. So that's really cool that inverter can kick in and offset that demand. Pure sine wave, just so you know, it basically mimics the exact same electricity that comes out of your house, because a lot of your electronics, like a Mac laptop or stuff of that nature, or medical equipment, can be sensitive to inverters. And so if it's like a modified sine wave, I've actually had like a Mac computer with a modified sine wave inverter back in the day, and it caused my computer to buzz. Excuse me. This is your battery bay. On the left-hand side, you have your batteries to start the main diesel engine on the coach. And then this is your battery isolator manager that separates the 2 battery systems, but also lets them tie together if you want to try to jump start one off the other. In the sense, like these batteries are dead and you want to jump start your generator, these batteries are dead and you want to start your main diesel engine. You have, for the coach side, you have 3 internally heated lithium batteries that are 100 amp hour for a total of 300 amp hours. Those lithium batteries should last you every bit of a decade. I believe they are warranted for a decade. Lithium technology has come a long way. One of the issues with lithium batteries starting off was the fact that they're sensitive to temperature. They don't like getting cold. They don't like to charge below 30 degrees, and they don't like to function below 0. Well, they start internally heating them. The initial internally heated lithium batteries was basically heat on, heat off. Well, these have battery management systems built into them with thermostats, and they just heat as much as necessary to keep them functional and have very little effect on the batteries. I have lithium batteries on my coach. I cold weather camp, I high altitude camp. Those suckers they're beasts. They do an awesome job. It allow me, I can off grid like crazy. So it's, you know, lithium is definitely the future. Lithium is going to become the standard for Renegade for 2026 model year. So I mean, this is what to expect. This is what you want. And if you have questions about upgrading a coach to lithium, you know, feel free to reach out to me, because it's not a matter of just switching out batteries. Like, I've seen that so many times from customers. Oh, you know, it's not even an RV they bought from us. They just reach out just because they know we're knowledgeable, and they go, hey, I had these batteries put on, but this isn't doing this or that. And I come to find out, like, they just switched them out. But there's things that have to be reprogrammed, because the charging profile for lithium batteries is different than a lead acid battery. So there's just stuff that has to be changed out. Inverters, solar charge controllers, your battery isolator manager, like all this stuff has to be changed out when switching to lithium. This up here is a Victron energy shunt that basically allows you to track all the wattage that's coming out of the batteries and going back in. You know, lithium batteries don't sag like lead acid batteries on the voltage. So like as a lead acid battery draws down, if you're running a fan off of that battery, the fan will slow down gradually over time. Lithium batteries, that fan will run the same speed the entire time and then die, just like a lithium power tool. Like you're impacting away, no problem, all of a sudden it just dies. And that's what's another nice thing about lithium is, like, if you have furnaces and vent fans and things that are turning, like, they're going to work optimally the entire cycle of the battery and not be slowing down over time. I could do a whole hour-long video on batteries. So if you got lots of electrical questions, like, reach out to our team, you know, me and James, Bethany, you know, we'd be happy to answer your questions. This the other side, you've got your other 50-gallon fuel tank, and then of course your DEF fill. The one thing about DEF is just make sure you know where your DEF is coming from. You know, if you're buying it in a bottle, make sure the seal isn't broken. I've heard horror stories of people like putting DEF in their vehicles at Walmart and then taking the bottle back in and returning with water in it. Like broken. I've only run it one time at a pilot. Like I bought a bottle of DEF, took it out to put it in my RV, and there was no seal in it. And I took it back, and they looked at me all weird, like, you can't. I said, I'm not going to put this in my vehicle. There's no seal, so you can't guarantee me what's in that bottle. So that's why I just don't use it. Get one that's got a seal. Another thing too is keeping this area clean. You don't want to spill DEF all over the place. DEF is corrosive. It builds up crystals. So if you do spill DEF all over the place, take some water. You know, rinse it off, keep it clean, and don't let that build up. If you for fun, you're driving on the highway and you look at all these different semi trucks that have these like DEF fill spots. These trucks. Not all, don't judge me here, but like you'll look by some of these truck guys. I mean, they'll have these massive crystal mounds, like where they just dump it in there and they don't care, you know. So that's fun that you can look for on the highway. It looks like these big crystal mounds around their DEF fill. This is your block heater for the engine. In today's world, those aren't super necessary because we have grid heaters for the engines. So when you turn the key over, the engine starts heating the air up in the air intake. And then the vehicle just starts. And what I do, if it's going to be like 10 degrees or less, I'll turn that key over, and there's a wait to start lamp that comes on, or a little light that's, you know, that basically indicates please wait to start the vehicle. Well, what I do is I'll wait till it says, you know, to start the vehicle, and then I'll turn the key off and do the whole cycle again. And when you go to actually turn the engine on, like it will like fire right up even in cold weather because it's sucking in that hot air. You got one of those pin lights up there. Like I said, this is a Surge exterior paint, which has got the blue in it. 4-point leveling jack, hydraulic. Another thing I learned recently that I didn't necessarily know was the hydraulic system for the jacks. It's the same hydraulic system that runs this big slide. So it's one unit, and so you got basically a hydraulic system that's got like 6 outputs on it, and then you're using 5 of them, right? 4 jacks and a slide. All right, let's go on the inside. So real quick, before I open up this RV, I always like to point out that Renegade does an amazing job of making their RVs usable in transit. So as far as getting to the refrigerator, sitting down, using the kitchen sink, the microwave, the dinette, like, you know, so I'm a huge advocate of like Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. And so I don't want to park and level and pull out slides. Like I just want to park you know, make dinner if I need to or whatever, you know, get some rest and then continue my travels for the next day. So as you can see, like, easy to get to the fridge. I'm walking back through here. You know, you can get to your bedroom, no problem. You know, I mean, a bathroom and sink and washer and dryer. So, I mean, extremely usable. You just closed up. So that's just a good thing to notice. Of course, you got your cab over bunk. And then we'll open this thing up. This is Athens interior with Cape Cod stain, by the way, in case I forget to mention that later. So I'm working my way into the coach. One of the things I love about Renegades, and I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, are the cut under steps. It seems like not a big deal, but when you RV and you want to not track dirt into it, it's nice to have a place where you can step up, kick off your shoes, and get them out of the way. You know, a lot of your RVs, this is a closed-off box. It's a store, you know, the batteries and other things there, and that's just a perfect utilization of that. You're walking to your coach, you slide your shoes off, and then walk up into your coach to keep it nice and clean. Right here at the entry door, you have your battery disconnect switch for the coach side, which is the lithium batteries. And then next to the driver's door, the driver's seat by the driver's door, there's a battery disconnect switch that's for the chassis and the main engine. You also have a step override here so that your steps aren't going in and out every time you open the door. And then you have an e-start. The e-start is what ties those two batteries together through the battery isolator manager, so that if you've drawn one set of batteries down, you can tie them together to either start the generator or start the main engine on the chassis. If you listen, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but when you click this, there's a solenoid that kicks over for about 30 seconds and then kicks back off. And you can tell that's working when you look at the display on the Firefly, because your voltages will even out the same because those two systems are being tied together. So I heard it click over, and if I wait about 30 seconds, it'll kick back off. Of course, you got a fire extinguisher right here at the door. In 2025, they went to a dedicated Xantrax inverter controller. There was some, it wasn't on all of them. There were some communication issues between inverters and the Firefly system, and so they went to a dedicated inverter controller for that inverter versus tied into the Firefly. You still get the voltage readout and a lot of functionality in the Firefly, but the actual inverter controls are done here. So as you can see, so this is the 40 VTS floor plan, which came out in 2025. It's the first year for it. It's the only Verona level coach that has opposing slides. So it's the first level Super C from Renegade that has opposing slides in this one floor plan. When you go to the Verona LE, all coaches have opposing slides in that product line. But in the Verona, they came up with a 40 VTS, has opposing slides. So you get opposing slides at a price point of a Verona. It's awesome. Like, call us, you'll be surprised that it's really not a ton of added value, or not added value, not a ton of added cost. If this is what appeals to you, this gives you a lot more space to entertain and just move around. If you got pets, children, little kids, grandkids, like, you get more floor space. Or if you just want to have more space in the coach in general, like, this coach opens up really nice, and as I showed you earlier, still very usable when it closed up. Right above the entry door, we have, of course, your TV and your sound bar, and then you have your first control panel for the Firefly system for your multiplex wiring. This is essentially just a wireless remote that communicates over to the Firefly system. And so when I hit buttons like ceiling and cargo, you know, those things are coming on and off. What's really nice about multiplex wiring systems is instead of having to walk through a coach and flip a bunch of individual lights on and off, I can hit all off and every light in the coach turns off. I can hit all on, every light in the coach comes on. Every light that has up and down arrows are dimmable. So if you look, you'll see that the lights are dimming. I think you can see that in my video. So another neat function is if you get your lights set to where you want them, and I hit all off and I hit all on, it remembers that setting, and all the lights return to the previous state. If you want to go everything full brightness, if you hold the on button, everything returns to full brightness. So that's what's neat about multiplex, and then, you know, and it can be done from multiple locations, and there's an app on your phone that you can also use and do the same thing. So you have your couch here, which this comes out into a bed. You've got all kinds of storage. Of course, you've got a convection microwave, so you can bake or microwave in that. Renegade's owner's manual book, which has a lot of good information in it. The first section has a lot of just the need to know, good tips and stuff. Example would be, they want you to have your jacks down before you put any slides out, so all that kind of stuff. So when I tell you to have jacks down and then slides, and you question me because there's other manufacturers like Newmar that want it done the other way, it's in the book from Renegade. That's how they want it done. You got a true induction cooktop. Does require special cookware, but induction cookware is backwards compatible, so you can use it on gas or electric or anything in that nature. You also have, make sure I turn this the right way. There you go. You also have a nice big deep storage. So down here you've got all kinds of storage. If you look, there's a little notch right here. There's a cutting board that goes into that spot to give you additional cabinet space. In a cutting board area, not cabinet space, countertop space. I'm struggling today. Corian countertops, all hardwood maple cabinetry. In 2025 as well, they went to dovetail construction, just like you would find in an LE. So that's super nice. You have paint samples for touch-up. Of course, your whole house water filter. And then this is basically the major tool that you need for owning a Renegade. It's a dry lubricant spray. You use this on every moving part on the coach. Steps, slides, like this is the stuff to use. Every 6 months, lubricating your slides. That's something I can show you how to do, or obviously you can always bring stuff to a dealer to have it serviced, but the reason why we can't show you how to do some stuff on your own, it's not hard to do. It's just knowing, knowing how to do it, or what's the best way to do it, right? Per Renegade's recommendation too. It's not like we're not just making it up. So all kinds of storage down here. When I tell people, we could sell, right? Sales guys sell a product. They blah 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 blah. And I tell people, if you want to do your own justice and research as far as like buying a coach, like nothing's better than driving them and going to factory tours. Once you drive a Renegade and you go drive brand X, and I've had customers like, well, I'm going to go look at this other brand. It's a little bit less expensive. And I'm like, that's fine. Make sure you drive it. Let's go drive this one. And like they come back. I don't know of any customer that hasn't come back and said, boy, like that Renegade is what is to buy. Like the way it drives and sounds, and just how like solid it feels driving down the road. So like they just don't rattle. And so, but what's funny is when I go on test drives, I always got to remember to, like, I can't help this. Like, this is a microwave. Yeah, this is gonna. So I always take these out and stick them on the couch or something. But when you're traveling in your RV, like pots, pans, whatever it may be, it's good to have a stack of felt to like put felt here and on your pots and pans, just so you don't get rattled from that kind of stuff. That's got nothing to do with Renegade. That's just the nature of RVing and just how you pack so that things stay nice and quiet. So this is our, we have two Firefly screens. There's one in the rear, one in the front. We'll start with the home screen. Super easy to use. On your home screen, you've got a master light on and off, fresh tank, gray tank, black tank, water pump, tank heaters, which that's your gray and your black tank heaters for winters to keep those from freezing. Of course, in motion satellite on and off. If I hit that, you'll hear it up there spinning around trying to find a signal. Of course, your voltages, house, and chassis. That's talking about when you hit that E-start button, for the batteries. That's when these two suckers will equalize out. Generators start and stop with your current hours. A way to get into the AGS, turn your AGS on. And then you got your temperatures for front, rear, and bay. These little black dots are what are reading those temperatures to your Firefly system. And then this is where a spot where you can say, hey, I want the AquaHot to be allowed to use the burner and electric. And then we move down to the lights. Here's all your lighting control. Everything with up and down arrows can be dimmed. Here's your power screen. We're not hooked up to shore right now, but if I was hooked up to a 50 amp shore cord, like to our outlet in here in the showroom, it would say 50 amp shore auto. If you hook up to anything less than 50 amps, so 30 amp, 28, 15 amp, it's automatically going to default to 15 amp because it sees that one leg and it has no way to know how many amps that line is capable of carrying. So if you are hooked up to a 30 amp and not a 15, you can click here and bump it up to a 30 amp, so it'll free up one of your air conditioners so that you can do that. It's going to cut out all your air conditioners until you do that, because it's safeguarding the system to keep from melting or tripping any breakers. Of course, you can start and stop your generator here, AGS on and off. Of course, this is your line 1, line 2 voltage and amps that are being used on each of those lines, right? Because you got 2 lines of 50 amp coming into the coach that are 110 volt. Now, AGS is auto gen start, and basically you have there's auto gen start. You got to enable it first. So so that say, hey, yes, please use auto gen start. Well, you can have that on, but if you don't have any triggers highlighted, auto gen start will never come on. So you have to have triggers enabled. State of charge, HVAC load. So a state of charge, if your batteries get down low, the generator can fire up and charge your battery system, like if your fridge has been running and that kind of stuff. Or if you've got your HVAC set, which you just basically based on what you put here. So if you've got your HVAC set to 70 degrees and it gets to 75, generator kicks on and cools the coach back down. Also great for pets and stuff like that. It's also good to use your auto gen start if you are leaving pets in a coach, even if you are hooked up to a shore at an RV park or resort, because for some reason a breaker gets tripped or the RV park loses power and it's a hot summer place like Arizona in July. The RV will then switch over to auto gen start mode and start cooling the coach with the generator if you lose power. So it's like just an extra little peace of mind, if you're traveling with pets. Quiet hours, that's basically telling the generator when it's not allowed to start up. If you're at a state park or a campground or national park where they don't allow generators to be run from like 8 to 8, you can set that here. And then minimum runtime 30 minutes. Typically when you fire up a generator, you want to at least run it 30 minutes. Maximum runtime 205. In 205 minutes, you should either be charging your batteries up or cooling your coach back down. And then maximum generator retries is 4. The reason for that is the generator has no idea how much fuel is in the tank, and so it's not just going to sit there and try to start and stop. It'll try 4 times and it'll quit. One thing to note about auto gen start is every time you put the key in the ignition, it disables it. And the reason for that is for your own safety. You're at you're boondocking somewhere or whatever it may be. You drive home. I know people who have big garages. I almost said a bad word. Big garages attached to their house. You pull it in there and you've had auto gen start off and you're sleeping in your house and that generator kicks on, you're pumping carbon monoxide. So every time you move the coach, you have to re-enable it because it's going to automatically disable when you put that key in the ignition for safety. HVAC, super simple. Systems, cool, heat pump, aqua hot, cool, heat pump, aqua hot. The two 15,000 BTU heat pumps do cool and heat. I don't like them. We were using heat pumps the other day at like 35 degrees by accident, and it actually heated up the coach. I was shocked. Like, I always tell people 50 degrees is kind of the usable aspect of like the heat pumps, and then aqua hot is what you should be using like below that. You play with it. Try heat pumps at certain temperatures, try aqua hot at certain temperatures. Aqua hot's going to be a lot quieter, so that's a huge advantage. But, heat pumps, if you're hooked up to electric somewhere, you're using their electric. So you play with it and you decide what, it's personal preference. Try them out and see how it works for you. I was super shocked at how well the heat pumps worked. I think it was this coach. How I was just shocked how well they worked. You do have bay controls, so the bay out there with that's got the water controls and stuff in it is heated by the aqua hot system as well. So then you have let's go back here to this. Of course, you have another place to turn on aqua hot burner, aqua hot electric, because you got to tell it's allowed to use those fuels if you're going to use your aqua hot. It just you got to say, hey, I'm okay with you burning diesel. Yes, I'm okay with you pulling electric. Go down here. Bathroom fan in your bathroom. That's up and down, high, low, and speed. No big deal. Here's your slide controls. These will lock if there's a key in the ignition. Renegade wants you to run your slides in and out, jacks down, ignition off. You will not be able to run anything in and out with the ignition. If you turn the key in the ignition and your awning's out, it will automatically start retracting as well. Slides will not. You need to make sure you have those in. Here's your leveling system. These coaches do a great job of auto leveling. I don't care what leveling system it is. coaches always over level, lift coaches higher than really what is necessary. So I personally manually level because I want my coach to be lifted the bare minimum off the ground. One, it just keeps my step closer to the ground, and there's just no need to raise it higher than I have to. Auto level works great though. I mean, if you're on a level surface and you want to auto level, like, I mean, this is auto level. I mean, I didn't manually level in the showroom, but when when I'm actually RVing and going to be parked for extended periods of time, I just manually level, and it literally, I don't want to do it because the slides are out, but like if I push that button, the jacks start going down, I mean, you just hit them and the jacks start moving. Here's your settings. There's your mobile app to download the mirror app. There's your pin and of course your mirror ID. Switch panel info. This is where you can see which switch panels are connected to the Firefly system. This is funny. So see how this is 91, which is like yellow? It's because I'm standing in front of the Firefly system and that switch is behind me, so I'm causing some interference. If I moved long enough, it'd bump up here in the greens like these other ones. They'll still work. It's just that's because I'm standing in between the panel and the main unit. So this is good just to look at in case you're having to switch panel info, like are you getting a good signal? One of the issues early on with Firefly is they would only put one of these units in a coach. Well, there was coaches that had the fridge sitting right on the other side of this wall, and so any switch panels on that side of the coach over there, if the compressor was kicking on the fridge, was causing interference, and it took us forever to figure that out. So that's why you have a second main unit in the back, is because all the switches on that side of the coach are going to be programmed to that one. So as we come, of course, you got pantry here. So you got tons of storage. Well, that's not pantry, but down here, this is the diagrams for your breakers and fuses. One thing that really neat to note, a lot of people don't know, is inverter output. Everything on this panel here with the inverter output will run off the inverter. So AV, TV, front slide out, bedroom receptacle, rear slide out, refrigerator, batch GFI, driver's side box receptacle, microwave, kitchen, outside entertainment center, subwoofer, like that all runs, I guess I should back up some, will all run off the inverter, shore, generator. Down here, everything will only run off of shore or generator, which is going to be your heavier load appliances. Front air conditioner, dryer, rear air conditioner, aqua hot electric, range, washer. So that way it's, a lot of people like go through their coaches and are like just testing stuff to see what works on an inverter. There's your list. Inverter, shore and generator only. By the way, Renegade supplies a 1-year roadside assistance for free first year. I apologize. I've been fighting bronchitis and stuff for a month. I've been on antibiotics for 2 weeks. Of course, you have a nice big shower. The shower head's on a rod that goes up and down, which is a really nice feature that was new, I think, 2023-ish. One thing Renegade started adding a while ago was that access panel at the bottom. So during your annual inspections, taking a glance to make sure that all your fittings still look good, no leaks or nothing of that nature. I had a customer recently that had to tighten one up, and they said it wasn't that, it looks like a small little space. He said it wasn't that bad, getting in there to tighten it up. I haven't personally done it, but he's like, it wasn't that bad. Because I was like, well, how bad was that? And he's like, wasn't that bad. Your macerator toilet, it does have an eco flush, which is like number 1, normal number 2, and of course empty for transit. The neat thing about the macerator toilets, it's not like your traditional RV where you're dumping into a black tank, through a big hole. So then your only barrier between that tank and the RV is, a little layer of water. This grinds everything down and pumps it through a 3/4 inch line over to the black tank. So you don't get odors. I know a lot of the Renegade owners don't even use chemicals. I would use chemicals. I would use a liquid bacteria just to help keep that tank cleaner and that bacteria eating everything down in that tank to keep it nice and clean. But as far as odors, that doesn't seem to be the problem because it's being pumped over into a tank. And of course, it's vented to the top as well, but you just don't have the vapor that's coming up around the toilet because the black tank sits right underneath it. So that's awesome. I mean, that's one of the things a lot of RVers fight, is making sure they're keeping that black tank treated and sealed, and so that nothing, water's not drying out in P traps and stuff, because you get those odors. Of course, you got a vent fan in here. One of the best ways to cool the coach down, especially if you're in cooler weather, is to actually just use that vent fan, open up some windows, and really pull fresh air through instead of making the air conditioners work so hard. You know, if the outside temperature is nice, and then, you know, if you want to run the air, you can. Another touch panel. In your bathroom, you got the ability to turn on the water pumps if you need to flush the toilet. I don't recommend keeping water pressure on the coach, like while you're traveling. If you're going to be away from the coach for extended times. A perfect example of a scenario is a guy has his water pump on, has something sitting here, so it could be a dehumidifier or whatever it may be. This was closed, driving down the road, falls over, forgot it was sitting here, falls over, hits this, water pump's on, starts filling the sink, comes over the sink, and literally, you know, the guy's up front driving and jamming out to Aerosmith, and 150 gallons of water comes out of that hole, or that faucet, and dumps all through the coach, because it never actually made its way all the way to the front to where it was noticeable. But when the customer pulled in the lot for service that day, you know, he was coming here for service, I could see the water just running out of the slides, like down the side of the coach. So obviously, just no different than like having stuff on the counters when you go to drive, like drinks and stuff falling off. Like, you know, also be cautious about stuff like that. All this back here on this Firefly system is 100% identical. You've got a very large medicine cabinet right here. You've got all kinds of storage back here, wardrobes. You got an emergency exit. You can't open that emergency exit. The window won't fall out. It just has nothing to prop it open. That's by law, fire marshal. It has to be able to be pushed out really easily so that you could exit the vehicle in case of a fire. You've got a TV that's back here, a smart TV, and then you have the entertainment bay right here, which has got an HDMI cable and a hookup if you're doing a satellite box. So right here you can see you've got a control panel here for the Firefly system. That's your temperature sensor for the rear. You've also got a touch panel up there, which has the ability to turn all your lights off and stuff throughout the coach. It's also super nice that you have those cross windows that open up. So if you are like in nice cool weather and you just want to get a nice breeze across your face, you can turn your vent fan on in your bathroom, and it'll pull some air too. So you can pull air through the coach and have that fresh air. That's what I prefer to do if feasible, unless it's just super hot and muggy. One of the things too added for 2025 was these shelves and outlets. That's an added feature for 2025 in storage. You got a little cabinetry here, so that's super nice. You do have outlets on both sides. And of course storage down there as well. Storage across the top. You got all kinds of storage. Get to the bed up here. All right. Underneath the bed, you have two 75-gallon fuel tanks. Whew, I'm struggling today. You have two 75-gallon water tanks that is roto-molded plastic. They're extremely durable. So for a total of 150 gallons. Right there, you can see one of your Aqua Hot. Oops, my camera. There you go. You can see. Hold on, you gotta bear with me here. There we go. You can see one of your Aqua Hot radiators. That's where your glycol comes through that's being heated. Goes through that radiator, those fans. Blow that heat across there and spread that heat across your coach. Aqua Hot does an awesome job of being quiet and creating equal temperature from floor to ceiling. Unlike your gas furnaces, nothing wrong with gas furnace, but typically you're going to have a lot hotter air at the ceiling than what you'll have at the ground. There's your water pump. That clear line is so you can switch the water pump to pull from that. I typically use a 5-gallon bucket with antifreeze to winterize the coach. Makes it super simple. This has an Aqua Hot system, meaning you have to winterize with antifreeze. Do not winterize with air. There's a copper coil in that Aqua Hot system that needs glycol run through it. That big lever there is to dump the fresh water out of the tanks onto the ground. And then, of course, this does have an overflow on it so that if you overfill your tanks, the water will drip on the ground as well. Mention of water dripping on the ground, something that's super neat about Renegade, and I hate when I forget to mention it, is the heat pumps. The heat pumps have condensation pumps on them. So instead of the water running off the side of the coach and causing streaks down the side, it's actually plumbed underneath the coach. So people think they have like a water leak in the summertime. It's just the condensation pumps taking the water off the AC units and plumbing it underneath the coach, and then you'll see it like pooling or dripping down there. But you don't get that streaking down the sides. You can see, like, for this, of course, this door slides across and closes this area off. You've got a transit strap up there, so when you're making tight turns or bumping, it's not sliding open while you're driving. This does have a separate washer and dryer in it. That is an option that we order from Renegade. All units come prepped for washer and dryer. You just have to order the option. I've never personally used these myself, but everybody tells me that the separate units work a lot better than the combination units. The washer uses about 11 gallons per load, and then the dryer, this is typically going to be more for your lighter loads and laundry. Whites, t-shirts, underwear, socks. You can wash a pair of blue jeans or dry some towels, but not necessarily the load you're going to do at home. I mean, I know people that use the fire out of them. I mean, I know people that travel with 4 kids and do it. So I mean, and they are functional and they are nice to have. Of course, you have a residential refrigerator. Nice thing about a residential refrigerator versus a dual fuel refrigerator is that you got more space. Dual fuel refrigerators, the systems come in farther into the fridge, and so that eats up some of that square footage in there. And so another thing too, residential refrigerators are cheaper. Dual fuel refrigerators are expensive. You got to be certified to work on them. Plus they use gas, which this is an all-electric coach. And dual fuel refrigerators are also finicky about being level. All these things do not affect a residential refrigerator. If you ever down the road have problems with this refrigerator, you can call the same appliance repairman who would come to your house to work on this refrigerator. So that's just by far the best solution. You do have an ice maker. This is your transit lock right here. There is a shut off up here in the top, right there, for your ice maker in case you winterize and unwinterize due to a certain situation and you don't want water going into the ice maker. If you want to winterize the ice maker, it's perfectly fine to run the glycol through it. This is your entertainment bay for your TV over here by the coach door. So this is, for of course, a satellite box. Now this HDMI cord that's up here, what's neat about it is it feeds not only the TV inside the coach in the living room, it also feeds the TV outside. So if you plug a games console, a Fire Stick, a DVD player, satellite box, it's going to feed both those TVs at this, mirror the same image, which is super nice for the tailgaters and all that kind of stuff. This is your wine guard control. This is where you turn your Wi-Fi on or your Wi-Fi booster on the roof, or if you put a SIM card in it. I could do a whole hour-long video on internet. Please just call me. We'll talk about the different options and what will work best for you, whether it be Starlink or some form of hotspot. Antenna power. The thing about antenna power is it has to be on if you want to use over-the-air TV, but if you want to have the pass-through cable, like at an RV park, it's got to be off. If it's on, it will not let the cable come through. Of course, your AC units are ducted. That ductwork, I have seen a cross-section of it at the Renegade plant. It's got a closed cell foam that goes all the way around it, so it doesn't sweat on the ceiling and stuff. It made very well and functions extremely, it just does what it's supposed to do. Renegade builds an amazing product. I mean, let's talk about structure, right? I mean, the number one reason why I would buy Renegade is because of how they build the product. It's not the refrigerator, it's not the couch, it's not the motor, it's how they build the product, because it's built as a true 30-year coach. The floor is 3-inch steel beams, 2-inch steel trusses, double stack 2x4s, 3/4-inch plywood, home grade insulation. It's a wool-like material for high sound deadening and insulation value. The walls are 2-inch thick, vacuum bonded, aluminum tube structure, solid fiberglass exterior, Asdale interior. The roof is essentially the same. It's got more of an arch to it. It's a little thicker in the center, but still. And then, like, there's a brand X basically can say, oh, we're 2-inch vacuum bonded steel tube structure wall, solid exterior fiberglass, blah, blah. So it sounds so close on the marketing terminology, but like their fiberglass on the exterior of their coach is a sheet of paper. Whereas, I forget what the millimeter thickness is on a Renegade, but it's like closer to an 1/8 inch. Like, you can walk on the roof of this coach and it feels like a deck. So that's, you're buying that structure. That's why it sounds so good driving down the road, why it feels so solid compared to anything else you'll drive. I promise. Do the test drives for yourself, and you'll just like, yep, the guy was right. Like, he was telling the truth. Of course, this is your dinette. The trick behind the dinette is if you are going to use this for a bed, it makes about a 3x5 bed, but when you're putting the table down, there's a lock underneath that you flip over, and you're putting the table down, you put your hand in the center of the table, push straight down, and that table will slide straight down. If you try to push on the end of the table, you're basically like a lever. It binds it against the wall, and it's like any RV. It's not just a Renegade, and it's just hard to push down. Right in the center, boom, she'll go. Underneath the dinette, you have drawers, which house like the extra cushions to turn it into a bed. If you have no intentions of making it into a bed, take those cushions out, store them, keep them clean, and use that for storage if you need it. In these coaches, of course, you have day-night shades. This is your day shade. Here's your night shade. And just to reiterate, this is interior is Athens with the Cape Cod stain. I think I said that earlier. You've got all kinds of storage along here. The windows are super nice. This basically is like this all the way down through there. These windows are super nice in the sense that you can still use them while raining versus windows that slide open, because they swing out, so rain's going to shed off. But yet if you have a vent fan on or something, you can still pull fresh air into the coach. Those are also Dual-Pane windows. It helps with thermal value and definitely helps with sound value. So in those cases where you are at a Bass Pro Shop, or there's some RV parks that are real darn close to the interstate, it's going to help a lot with the sound and that highway noise inside the coach. Or you're at the racetrack or whatever, it's just going to make it a lot quieter in the coach versus a single pane. Of course, you got another outlet up here. They're now using USB-A and USB-C outlets, so you've got both. A lot of your new phones today, like the newer Apples and Androids, use that USB-C. Of course, you've got your cab over bunk. Got a TV up here. Of course, there's a curtain that goes across for privacy. That electric shade that covers that glass at the top. That is an automotive windshield glass, so that is very durable. It's designed, it's not just going to chip real easy or break. Like any windshield, it can chip or break, but it's way less likely. To make this into a bed, this just slides across, locks in with those pins. You flip your mattress over, and you've got a nice big bed up here. I think they rate that for like 300 pounds. I'd put more up there. Just don't quote me on it. You got to set a limit at some point. We've included the option for the power reclining theater seats. There's also a couch available. If that's a deal breaker, it's no big deal for us to switch that back to a couch. Or if we had a couch in the unit and you want a recliner, like, not a big deal. Like, that's something we can resolve, no problem. I should also mention that the doors for 2025 are 2 inches wider, and the windows are 6 inches wider. On the man, today's rough. On the theater seats and the dinette. I'm trying to pack a lot in really fast, because this video's intention is to be informational and just really give you a lot of information that you may not get from somebody else. We'll make another video on this coach where it's just the wham bam, here's the highlights in 5 minutes. This is I want to know everything I possibly can about this coach. I'm a serious buyer. I'm getting ready to spend a substantial amount of money. So up here in the cab, so this is in 2024 Renegade at some point had to switch over to the Freightliner Plus cab, which added the options for steering wheel controls. Of course, your city horn is still in the center. Their updated gauge cluster that's down here, and you can just see the dash all together looks a little bit different. This is your Garmin head unit, which is your navigation, radio. It can be pulled off, so navigation, radio, side cameras, rear cameras, and all those things. If you remove it, camera systems don't work in your hand. It has to be connected to the docking station. And so the biggest thing, if anybody asks, hey, what's the one thing you do to the coach, like aftermarket or add-on or whatever it may be, take the camera system out of here, put it up here like a rear view mirror. The way these coaches are built, we can easily and cleanly install like a ram track here, put a Voyager camera screen on a ram ball, drop it down. look, there's a collision mitigation system here. So you're not even blocking any of the windshield. So we can put that screen right here. And then we don't have to drill any other holes, because then we can run the wires off of it up in between here behind, right along the wires for the collision mitigation system. We come across, we come down the pillar, and then we just, those wires are already in the dash down here, so it all works out super clean. So that's by far, like, if you wanted us to do anything, or if you want to do it on your own and need parts or questions, like, just let us know. Now, as far as the engine itself, the biggest thing to know is, diesel engines have only gotten more complicated with time and emission systems, which in today's world, they're pretty solid. We've really figured out a lot of stuff, but you still got lights and stuff that come on. They're informational. Sometimes lights will come on, they'll go off, because, engine lights have the ability to self-heal today. And there's cases where sensors may trigger and it not necessarily be a big deal. Like, if you have a low battery, that can cause a sensor to trigger. And then if the vehicle, once it gets back up to a current battery, the right battery state, and it doesn't no longer sees that issue after 3 key cycles, it'll clear the code on its own. So the biggest thing to know is, when you're driving these, is that you've got yellow lights that are engine, and you got red lights. Yellow lights are cautionary. Do I hear, see, feel anything different? It's like, it's not necessarily like run to the dealership situation. Like, as long as you don't hear, feel, or see anything different, like, I would keep driving and just stay aware. I wouldn't even worry about it that much. Like, I've drove 3,000 miles on an engine light that was yellow, because it ended up being a wheel sensor. Like, it was, my cruise control would kick out from time to time, but I wasn't going to, take from my trip with my family up to Maine, to spend a day and a half at a Mercedes dealership. So that's your yellow lights. Now, if a red engine light comes on, and I can turn the key once and see if nope, I can't, don't have keys. A red engine light would pop on, and that basically is a catastrophic engine failure possibility. That means pull over as soon as it's safe. Like, if you're near an exit, or if you can get off on the emergency lane, like, you need to pull over. A perfect example of catastrophic engine failure would be blowing a coolant line. You've dumped all your coolant out of your engine, it's going to blow up. Like, you need to pull over. The engine can even derate itself and slow down, and it's trying to protect itself. That is something that has come from the commercial trucking industry, because, believe it or not, truck drivers will continue to drive and not stop when they've got smoke and stuff blowing out of a hood. And so it was a way to help save companies money by forcing the vehicle to protect itself. There's another light that looks like a little puff of smoke on a thermometer. That's just an informational yellow light. It's just telling you your exhaust temperature's hot. That's normal. When that light first came out in 2007, guys were stopping by all the time. I got a light on. Like, that's just an informational light. The guys were never trained to, like, hey, it's just telling you that your vehicle was in a region while you're driving down the highway. You went to pull off to get fuel or get something to eat, so it knows you're slowing down to park somewhere. Hey, by the way, your exhaust is 1,000 degrees. Don't park on dead grass or, like, near children. So that's, you just kind of have to pay attention to lights. You're always welcome to call us and, like, hey, I got this light. We've pulled codes for people or gave them information just to help them as they're on their travels. One of the things that we pride ourselves in here is service after the sale. Another thing too, all your commercial chassis, no matter what brand, they're going to have a breakdown of these lights up here regarding the emission system. It shows the stop engine check light, goes the yellow check light, and of course the cautionary stuff, and just verifies the stuff that I'm telling you. But just remember, like, don't freak out over every light. You shouldn't see lights very often, but don't also let it, ruin one of your trips. Down here, you got of course, your emergency lights. If you're on the side of the road or whatever it may be, you're slowing down due to weather conditions. You got cab step lights, footwell lights. You'll never use your shutdown override switch, because you don't have. It's not programmed to shut down after so much idling. This is your camera to switch from the truck and trailer, depending on if you have an extra camera on a trailer. This is your docking lights that shine back when you're backing into a campsite. Of course, your work light that's underneath the hood. Lane departure off so it doesn't beep at you when you're hitting the lane. Automatic traction control disabled. Basically, it lets the engine stay revved up to let the tires spin in case you're, like, in a sticky situation where it's lets the tire like to burn through ice or something of that nature, but it only lets it bypass it for a little bit, and then it goes back to traction control. Locking differential, that's where both your rear tires are going to turn together. Only use that in low speeds going forward. Of course, you can dump your suspension. The situation to dump your rear suspension is all vehicles slope forward, for aerodynamic purposes. So if you're parked on a campsite that's perfectly level, it's advantageous to dump your rear airbags to get it closer to the ground, so when you level, the jacks are doing less work. But on the flip side, if the rear end's even higher because of on a level site, it's only that more advantageous to dump your suspension. But if your front end is already high, it's not that advantageous to dump the rear air because you're just dropping it even lower, and the jacks just have to pick it up that much farther. This is where you hook into the radio for USB and 3.5 jack. Of course, the jack system can be operated from the Firefly system, but you do have a control panel up here that's completely separated, and then you also have additional 12-volt outlets, USB, and then, of course, your climate control for your HVAC system, fan speeds, and all your normal automotive stuff. Renegade Freightliner updated their cigarette package here to where it's no longer built in. This can be removed for those that don't need a ashtray, or if they just want to use it for a coin holder. You have power windows. For the new Freightliner cab, they did move everything over here to the door versus like your power windows being in the middle of the dash. Not a big deal, but people had a hard time getting used to it. And as far as that's a pretty quick rundown on the cab. Once again, if you got questions or need something, let me know. Oh, one thing I'll touch on here is this is an Allison 3000 series transmission. This is how you adjust your mode for performance or economy. The Verona comes standard in performance mode, so when you push this, it puts it in economy mode, meaning that it'll shift 200 RPM earlier. The concept being that the sooner you can get in top gear, the less fuel you're going to burn. And then if you put it in manual shift mode, which I think you hold it down a little bit longer, and then it goes into manual shift, and then you'll see on the display up here that you can bump up and down through your gears. So if you're trying to use gears to slow down on a mountain terrain, or hold it back, coming down a hill, and then this is what activates your 3-stage engine brake by pushing it down. And then right here, I don't know if you can kind of see it, this thing here turns, and this is how you go from neutral, drive, and reverse. So that's the stock shifter. A lot of the commercial trucking industry has gone to that. And basically what we're all trying to do is create driver ergonomics in the sense that we don't have a shifter down here anymore. So for the guys that have longer legs or need more space, it's less stuff to be hitting your legs and knees against when you're driving all day. So we're always trying to usually when there's a big cab redesign like this, there was a lot of driver ergonomics thought out, right? How do we make it more comfortable for drivers? Of course, your light controls over here for headlights and marker lights. Windshield wipers. And speed. You do have a spot up top here for a CB. Whoops. You got a spot right here for a CB. You got an antenna hookup and a power output. CBs, they're great for convoys, if you're traveling with people. Truck drivers can be helpful, but then sometimes you'll hear stuff you don't want to hear. So, not 100% necessary, but if it's something you want to put in there, it can easily be done. And then your lanyard up here that you pull down, that's your air horn. And then, of course, that microphone is your Bluetooth for your phone, over the radio. Hi, once again, my name is Kyle Koeberlein. I'm the sales director for Bluegrass Truck, Bus, and RV. At the end of the day, we're all part of a team. It's not about titles and that kind of stuff. We work together. So, James Wade is now, as of the first of the year, he's our truck and RV sales specialist. He came from our service department with over a decade as our foreman. He's worked on RVs. He knows the componentry. He knows troubleshooting. He's going to be a huge asset for everybody. That's an awesome change for us to better serve our customers. Bethany Hughes has come over as sales administrator. She's helping coordinate events, our rally in October. just helping customers with questions as well. So we have this awesome team that we have built to support the Renegade product. That's what we specialize in Renegade. You know, we're not about just trying to sell customers. It's about creating a customer experience and education. And if we earn your business, that's awesome. But if we don't earn your business and get a referral out of it, that's awesome too. Like, we understand, like, we want to be part of your buying process, and hopefully we are the best fit, but we know we may not be. And I've had several situations where customers told me, like, man, I'm like 2 years out from buying an RV. We're doing our research. We're trying to figure out how much we need to save, you know, for that retirement plan and all that kind of stuff. And like, no problem. Let's talk RV. Let's talk about what kind of floor plan. Let's talk about that future. And I have sold several RVs over the last 14 years. There was a 2-year process because it started off as a information gathering stage to the initial, like, actually buying a coach. And I still stay in contact with pretty much all my customers. I mean, I got a few customers that have since maybe switched from RV life to yacht life or something like that, so they don't need me as much. But everybody that still has their motorhomes, like, they reach out to me all the time asking questions and, hey, I got this problem or this or that. So, you know, my point being, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our goal is to be educational and helpful, and I appreciate you watching another one of our videos. Please comment, like, and subscribe.